1 minute away from the next session. I have a fantastic team here helping me to keep track of time. And I see my wonderful panelists already being here. I'm super excited. I can't wait. And yeah, the next session is going to be so interesting, right? We're going to stick a bit in this whole area of, like, obviously digital innovation and seamless experiences and how basically just to make this all better and how to collaborate. And as we know, technology is transforming how travelers discover and experience destinations, right? But how exactly can we leverage this to unlock sustainable tourism growth, right? In already existing and thriving destinations, but also maybe in the emerging ones. What can we learn from each other, and where should we look at and yeah, be careful about? So I'm thrilled to have 3 industry powerhouses joining me here on the stage at the eTravel track to discuss this with all of us. And I'm delighted to welcome on stage with me the Managing Director at Visit Oman, Shabib Al-Mamari. Welcome, it's wonderful to have you here. And we have the CEO and founder on the Dormet Group, Marilee Carr. Please welcome, please take a seat. And then we have the Global VP of Business Development at Expedia Group Media Solutions, Jennifer Andre. Thank you so much as well to you for being here. Feel at home, take a seat. It's exciting to see you in person. We had the conversations on the video call before. How are you, Shabib?
I'm good.
Wonderful.
A bit jet lagged, but surviving.
But you don't show.
Yeah, I'm trying hard.
Right, okay. Well, it's great that you're here. Thank you so much. Marilee, how are you?
Wonderful to be here at ITB. It's always a highlight of the year, and looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. Jennifer, thank you so much. Welcome back, right?
Yeah,
Last time I saw you at the Orange stage.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Very excited to be here, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, wonderful. And we do this properly, right? Because we are here at the ITB Berlin Convention 2025. It's the largest convention for the travel industry. So let me give you a proper introduction of my panelists, adding the global OTA perspective and also coming with a lot of knowledge and insights and data-based marketing efforts for destinations is the Global VP of Business Development, Expedia Group Solutions, Jennifer Andre. Thank you so much. And then we have a true expert from the short-term rental sector. So if you want to know anything about that space, you should connect with her afterwards. And offering also the perspective of a technology provider is Marilee Carr. She's the founder and CEO of the Dormet Group. And then we have a destination here to also tell us, right, how is it really in praxis? How does that look like? The perspective of a DMO. None other than Visit Oman. We have Shabib Al-Mamari. Thank you so much for being here. We're super excited to have you. And I want to kick this right off. And Jennifer, I'd say we start with you, because you can give us some data-based insights, right? So what are you seeing from the global perspective? What data-driven marketing and tech-enabled destination growth developments are you observing from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of research to better understand how travelers are actually choosing their destinations. And what we're finding is, for the most part, most travelers do not have a destination in mind, or they're considering multiple destinations when they start out their trip planning journey. So this is where advertising tech comes in, because we are able to connect with those travelers wherever they are, depending on what types of content they're consuming. They're consuming a lot of content across a lot of different channels. So that's why we are leaning into our travel media network. I sit on the advertising side of things, because we, on our owned and operated platform, we are able to use that advertising technology to target travelers based on their real-time behaviors. So we know, for example, if somebody's searching to go to the Middle East, but they maybe haven't decided on their destination yet, perfect opportunity for Visit Oman to come in and speak to that traveler, because a lot of things are going on in terms of what determines a trip decision. Does Oman have great activities, great accommodations? Is it easy to get to? All of those things. So that's a great way for us to use our first-party data and our technology to connect our travelers. But I would say another way that we're using technology in the industry, and we are at Expedia Group, is using our technology to tap into ways to reach travelers if they're not on our platform. So for example, Expedia Group, not many people know, we have 60,000 B2B partners. Many of these are big hotel chains, airlines, online travel agencies where we power their travel tech. So that's just another opportunity for us to connect our advertisers, our destinations with a totally net new audience. So pretty exciting for us.
And you're actually sitting on top of all this data, right, and information, which is key to inspire decisions about destination. Yeah, that's very interesting. And well, speaking about smarter travel, stronger destinations, which is the title of our session, right? Marilee, what comes to mind? What is top of mind when you hear that? What's the thing you say we have to look at?
Well, I think when we think about short-term rentals, often, hoteliers or even DMOs sort of think, oh, this is alternative, this is something on the side. But Eurostat has data, more than 20% of all accommodation stays in Europe are now in short-term and vacation rentals. It's mainstream. And having the types of products in your market that consumers are looking for is incredibly important in order to drive the tourism that you want to those markets. And our Hosperia technology is set up to help bring together what is a fragmented market. I think you'll be talking about that later as well. And actually help destinations to have high quality, professionally managed short-term rentals as one of the product offerings that consumers traveling to your market can access. And I think that's important because as our industry grows, it is not about hotels versus short-term rentals. It's about having the entire mix available to consumers so that they're able to purchase the right type of accommodation for their stay.
I love that, and it's a recurring theme, right? If you listened also into the other sessions, this is coming back all the time, that consumers just want to have the options, right? And diversification in offering is just a very solid strategy. Well, speaking about that, smarter travel, stronger destinations, Shabib, you're leading the digital transformation in Oman, right? That's basically, you said in the call, you're digitizing all supply within Oman, that's your task. How is your approach in that regard?
So when we looked at this a couple of years ago, it started pre-COVID. We've noticed in Oman there is this massive gap when it comes to offering. Everything was offline. You could find bits and pieces. And what we decided is let's aggregate everything, introduce a new B2B booking engine, seamless experience, a proper user journey for corporates to look at different products across the country and start building their own products. We have ready-made products there. One click of a button, you could buy an entire package on behalf of your clients. But then also you could build your own package or look at single elements. It's working really well. We're active in 170 countries.
Oh, wow.
Majority of the big players are a partner with Visit Oman. And what we do through this aggregation, we do large-scale distribution through digital platforms. The two lovely ladies here are partners of Visit Oman on different projects. We have one announcement today with Trip.com also. Again, the same concept of let's take the product on a global scale, and you can't do it unless you go digital. Same goes now with the story of short stay. We're looking at it, and we can talk about it later.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because now you're speaking about making it visible on a global scale, right? But then you also, your drive on that people love the authenticity of what they experience in your destination. How do you balance that? Is there advice you have for other destinations? Or?
So, not really. There isn't much of a bias. I would say that 80% of our suppliers are small and medium enterprises. These are the ones that can't make it here today. They want to come, but they can't afford. That's a big investment for them. So we tell them basically, it won't cost you anything. Let's partner with Visit Oman. We'll take you to the global stage. Let's digitize your experience, your product, your service, your activity. And then we'll connect to the likes of these organizations. And then we push that product. One thing that also is really important is the power of brand. When Expedia pushes a product, it's not a Visit Oman product. It's an Expedia product. And this is what we leverage on when we partner with the big players across the globe.
Right, understood. Makes total sense. Yeah, and yeah, sounds very good. And I mean, we've said that before, right? Vacation rental is a super interesting space, and also the data shows it represents 20% of accommodation nights in Europe. So it's not a tiny part of our industry. And in markets where tourism growth is strategically important, what would you say? What is the role of alternative accommodation? You touched upon it a bit already earlier by saying diversification is important. But what else would you say, Marilee? What's the...
Well, look, I think the role of vacation rentals is twofold. Number one is that it allows properties that would otherwise sit empty in a market or that might be spread across a much wider geography, so that diversification of destinations within a market. And so that ability for product to be available even where you can't justify building a major hotel. I think that spreads tourism more widely in a market, which is a huge benefit to the local communities and to growth of the market, so that it isn't just all in certain destinations concentrated, which of course can have some negative consequences as well. And I think the second thing is it also allows individuals within the market and SMEs to play a growing role. So it isn't just multinational hotel companies, et cetera, that will have a role to play, but it is also SMEs that are bringing these products to market, providing those authentic experiences to travelers, and providing differentiated products. So whether you need a one-bed studio in a city or whether you want a 7-bedroom villa near the beach, you have all different types of product. And I think what's important is then when you think about the distribution, you need to have the right technology to do it. Because a lot of hotel software will only distribute hotel rooms.
Right.
And if you want the end consumer to find that product, you've actually got to have technology with the complexity to be able to deliver it. And that's why, in the partnership that we have with Visit Oman, and also we work very closely with Expedia, we are that connective layer between the small companies and operators and the big distribution, which allows that complexity so that consumers can choose exactly the product they want, the number of bedrooms, the bed sizes, does it suit babies, does it have a swimming pool, all of these things. And I think that's exciting because in a world where we have uber personalization, you've got to have the content to be able to deliver that.
And it has to be comparable too, right? So you have to make the choices based on certain criteria. Yeah, I get that concept. Makes total sense. Shabib, how is that in Oman? How would you say what's the role of alternative accommodations for you? Is it strategically very important? Would you say? Would you agree?
Yeah. So it started off with the minor request, and then we looked at it strategically. Exactly the example given by Merrily. Locations that are wonderful but doesn't have the right type of hotels. Mm-hmm. But we found out there are beautiful farms, there are houses, and there are apartments there, and we wanted to work with them. And for us, we work with technology, but we're not a developer, so we work with other developers. We connected over LinkedIn, I think 3 years ago, and it just made sense in terms of speed. If I was to go and figure out how this short stay technology works versus I work with Merrily under the Doormat group with the wonderful solutions. And the power of digital scaling up is one thing, also on the speed of it and the experience. The number of years it would take us to understand how this thing works, what's the value proposition, what's in it for the end consumer, the traveler, or the owner of the house or apartment or farm, versus I talk to her and tells me this works here. You need to keep aware of these two technologies. You need to be connected. Today, I'm connected with Under the Doormat. They aggregate apartments and houses from Oman, and they distribute at scale to 50 plus other global aggregators. And when you think of it, how long would it take me and how much would it cost me to connect to 50 other organizations online versus talking to Merrily, and it's seamless.
I love that perspective, right? Because it's a discussion we hear a lot. Should we do it in-house, right? Own it. And then you're proposing the opposite. You say choose the right partners to do it with strategically, right? For us, this is our 4th year. It's cost effective. It's much faster. And then when I talk about AI within Visit Oman, it's the AI of the likes of Expedia. They'll call me and tell me, listen, this is the new technology here. We want to introduce it to Visit Oman. And the answer is always yes, if it makes commercial sense for us. Yeah. Yeah, it's very exciting to hear that, actually. It's a very new perspective if you given the other discussions that you hear. And then, Merrily, you mentioned it already, right? It's important to collaborate also in destination. And there is difficulties that are connected with the alternative vacation space if it's maybe too many, or you need the government to be involved. Maybe they need data. We have this in Germany, of course, right? We have with the whole space of alternative accommodation a lot of concerns. But you say there is a strategy to work with that, right? Can you share how you work with governments and DMOs to basically proactively avoid this?
Yeah, so look, I'm a huge advocate of balanced regulation. Our sector does need regulation. But over-regulation actually just stymies growth and pushes things into, let's say, a bit more of a black market. which is not helpful for anyone. Consumers have already voted with their feet. They want the ability to choose to stay in a home, an apartment, or a villa. So it's about working together between the industry, technologies, and DMOs to actually get that balance right, to professionalize the sector. And I think one of the things that Visit Oman has done really well is that they've got minimum standards that must be applied in order for short-term rentals to be accessible within the market. And so I think where DMOs are setting those minimum standards, that's hugely valuable. But then in working with technology partners, we're able to provide that layer of data, which gives them information about which properties are doing better, how are the ADRs, what does it look like in terms of the spread across the year, where are these tourists coming from? So all of that data in one location, because of course any OTA, which has huge amounts of data, will never have the full picture because there's multiple OTAs that all have part of the data. But when you work with a technology provider that can aggregate that data across OTAs and give a single window in a single picture, that also helps regulators to decide, well, do we need to try and push and spread this tourism more widely, or is it just that actually some local communities are complaining, but in reality it's a very small issue? So data is critical to being able to really assess what the issues are and to regulate appropriately.
I love that, right? The proactive approach with data to avoid concerns regarding regulation in the alternative vacation rental space. And there's another topic that's always having a bit of a negative touch, right? It's the over-tourism we read in the media. I mean, that's something that pains me when I see the normal media out there. You have over-tourism. You had the whole summer concerns about that. But what would you say, Jennifer, from your bird-eye perspective, a global OTA? Do you have a strategy how to leverage data and technology to maybe tackle that?
We work with a lot of destinations to help overcome that problem. I mean, before COVID, obviously not so much during COVID, but coming out of the pandemic, there was this resurgence of travel. And so there was concern that there was going to be over-tourism again, which of course we are experiencing that in some areas. But what we're finding in our research is that actually a lot of travelers are wanting to go off the beaten path, which of course helps with that problem of over-tourism. So we use a lot of data to understand what's going on, but 63% of travelers are saying they are going to take a detour destination trip this year, which means going somewhere that's not one of the over-touristed areas. And I'll give an example of a DMO that we've worked really closely with over the years, ITB France. They're all about tourism dispersal. And they've got great destinations within France, Paris and Nice, but everybody knows Paris and Nice, and they want to get everyone dispersed out into the other parts of France. And so with our technology and with our data, we are able to find those travelers that are, say, going to Paris or searching Paris and say, hey, go to Paris, but check out the Champagne region or the Loire Valley. Or maybe you've been to Paris a bunch of times, so why don't you check out Lyon? That's going to have another urban experience. And I think the other way that you manage over tourism is around seasonality. And in the same partnership that we had with ITB France, we worked with the south of France, they don't need tourists in the summertime. Everyone knows the south of France for great weather and beaches, but they also have ski in the Alps. So we can use our technology and data again to target those travelers who are looking for a ski holiday in Europe and divert them into getting the south of France into the consideration set. So that's some of the ways that we can utilize our data just by what traveler behaviors are. And fortunately, there's a real appetite amongst travelers now to be travelers, not tourists. So.
Right, that's a great example. I love that. That's very exciting. And I mean, it's also enriches the experience for the traveler because they have the feeling to explore, right, rather than just doing what the other already did. And you mentioned it briefly, Marilee, the importance of standards. And you said Visit Oman has minimum standards for their vacation rental partners. What would you say? How do you, in Visit Oman, how do you leverage the technology to ensure inclusivity with the SMEs, but also at the same time make sure the quality and service delivery is maintained?
So we have a dedicated quality assurance team that looks at any supplier. There are minimum standards. If you don't accept them, we can't allow you. And then we do also site visits, and we make sure that standards are applied. And we did end up taking some of the suppliers out of the platform for not meeting the requirements. But what happens when you connect to the likes of, under the doormat, they bring their own perspective and when it comes to standards. And it's much higher to what we have, since the stage as we at is very nascent as we speak. So what I do, if I want to work with them, I need to apply their standard, and then I need to apply that standard on all the suppliers that we have in Oman. So basically, you're uplifting the standards to a global standard level by digitally connecting to these wonderful platforms. And when we talk to different suppliers, we tell them, listen, if you want to be part of Expedia, if you want to be part of under the doormat solution, these are the new minimum requirements, because now it's not about the local perspective, it's about the international arena. If you want to compete, if you want to see your product being shown the biggest platforms in the world, these are the minimum requirements. And eventually you do this education, intentionally or not intentionally, which is at the end of the day, in my opinion, something good to have, because you're uplifting the standards of all the suppliers to meet the requirements of an ever-changing, I would say, dynamic sector.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And do you have an example of, for example, a standard that you were maybe surprised about that had to be met and then wasn't met before?
So the latest surprise, last year we connected with Get Your Guide.
Get Your Guide, yeah.
And they're one of our biggest, I would say, partners. 34 million users. Again, the same example of me trying to reach to 34 million users versus Get Your Guide, and I reached 34 million. And we started introducing different activities. One of the things we've introduced the aquarium in Muscat, Oman. It was on the platform for a few weeks, and then it was taken off, and they told us, we'll need to send a technical team to visit your aquarium. And for us, we were a bit worried. Why would you? Because we're the technical team for the partner. And they said, we have animal rights, and our clients uphold us to these standards. We need to go and check this aquarium. Do they have the minimum requirement for us to accept their products? So it's not only about, here you go, connect with Visit Oman, and I'll distribute and I'll take whatever you give me. No, they actually uphold us to their own requirements, their own standards. This has been a very educational, even though the example is very simple, but now we're looking at every single product and thinking, who's the target, what's the segment, what do they want in terms of minimum requirement of standards. We gave that education to the aquarium, and they're working now with us to meet the minimum requirements so they can become part of Get Your Guide and the other wonderful partners.
Oh, I think that's very impressive. Like, it sounds like a very successful strategy. Absolutely. Wow. I mean, the theme of this panel, right, is smarter travel, stronger destinations. And what would you say? How can OTAs, DMOs, and tech providers collaborate in the best way to really supply, distribution, and shape consumer travel decisions in the best way? How would you summarize that? Jennifer, maybe we start with you.
Yeah, I mean, my team, interestingly enough, we are the point of contact for destinations. And we know the destinations that we work with, you don't own your own supply. So we become essentially the concierge within Expedia Group, because we know that destinations are going to be able to leverage so much more from Expedia than just advertising, just distributing their content on our platform. So we sort of unlock that, and we work with the account managers that manage our hotels, our vacation rentals, airlines, so that when we're working with a DMO, we make sure that we have the right connectivity, that we have the right airlift, and that we have the right pricing and promotions in play. So especially if they're running a campaign with us. I would say another way that we bring supply and destinations together is via co-ops. We can always do so much more together by pooling our resources and our money. So imagine if you're an airline and you're launching a new route and you want to work with that destination, or if you're a region that's having a soft period, a bunch of hotels can come together and we can help bring in the DMO to amplify that. I'll give an example of where we brought multiple partners together from our supply and destinations. It was Tourism Toronto, Air Canada, and the Toronto Airport. They wanted to promote stopovers. So they came together and were incredibly successful. We saw a 330% increase of searches for stopovers in Toronto from the campaign. So those are just some of the examples that and this is what I love about my job, is we can bring the destinations in with the suppliers and kind of create those marriages and do better together.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jennifer. What would you say, Marilee? What's the best way to work together and collaborate?
I mean, I think ultimately it is the combination of the three things that are kind of represented on stage where the power sits most. Because at the end of the day, the OTAs are going to drive huge amounts of volume of tourists to a given destination. And so we need to be connected to the likes of Expedia and Vrbo to be able to make sure that the guests are able to find the product they're looking for. I like to think we play the role in the middle as providing that technology layer to bring together a fragmented industry to ensure that the right standards are being upheld in line with governments and DMOs, and that we're able to push those out and provide that data layer that allows the right transparency and visibility of a sector that often people are afraid of. And so I think if we want to open up short-term rental markets, we need to provide that layer of data and transparency in order for our market to thrive and grow responsibly.
Understood. Thank you. And what would you say, Shabib? What are you looking for in partnerships? What's the ones that really add value to you?
So looking at now 4 years in the works, I think we have this wonderful opportunity if we focus on short stay bundling products. So we have well over 200 different experiences. Again, 80% of our suppliers are SMEs. Now I can offer a package or a bundle that doesn't require a hotel room. And we have well over 1,500 farms across the entire country waiting to be connected. We just can't work with all of them because not all of them are regulated. They need to be regulated. But then the story goes, once that happens and they are up on the wonderful system provided by under the doormat, I can take the supply again on my B2B and push it to the other partners I have, likes of Expedia. A customer on Expedia might look at a farm, book it, but then they're interested in an activity, a hike, fishing, scuba diving. They can book it. They can book an airline ticket to Oman. They can book a transportation method, rent a car. And it's all in the power of digital. And what we're doing is we're in talks with a lot of partners here, tomorrow and after tomorrow, but also we're in constant talk with the wonderful suppliers that give us the authentic experience, and then trying to make all of that sense in a very easy-going, I would say, seamless experience online. And this is the power I see. Why would I collaborate with the likes of Under the Doormat or Expedia?
Wonderful, thank you. Yes, I mean, we're almost out of time, but we have time for a final advice that you can share with the audience and everyone at home, like following us in the live stream. If there would be one action you would encourage destinations, OTAs or tech providers to take 2025 to drive smarter and stronger tourism growth, what would it be? Marilee, you want to start?
I would say embrace short-term rentals. Don't be afraid of them. But find ways to do that ensures the responsible growth of the industry within your destination.
Jennifer, what's your take?
Well, I think it goes without saying we're all going to have to adopt AI and AI technologies. And I was talking earlier about how much content consumption is going on with travelers and how many channels they're on. It's a very fragmented path to purchase. Travelers are consuming 141 pages of digital content from the time that they actually start thinking about taking a trip and booking their trip. So imagine what AI is going to do there with personalization and just taking those pain points away. So I'm super excited about it. We're leaning into it pretty heavily, and I think we're all going to need to get there.
Thank you. And Shabib, what would you say? What's your advice?
Out of all the numbers we've seen, one thing that stick out the most when it comes to engaging the right client is experience. And I think that's one of the things that would drive a lot of decisions when it comes, why would I go to a destination? We've noticed it's now the experience itself. It's that location that I want to go to, regardless where that falls. It's not about the destination anymore. It's about the experience. And this is what we're trying now to figure out from a technology perspective. How can we push beautiful content to focus on the destination? We have the client saying, I want to be there today, not tomorrow. So we're looking at a new trendy thing called social commerce, and basically pushing the B2C side from a B2B, but not on our platform, on the likes of Instagram, TikToks,
Yes.
and Snapchat.
Yeah, we had this earlier here, right, in the morning as well, the importance of the change of how we, the acquisition strategy of consumers, that they really want to be inspired and they want to see real examples from fellow travelers. That was really interesting conversation. I could go on for forever, but we have 6 seconds left. So enough time for me to encourage all of you, go and find Expedia Group. They are in Hall 9, booth 301. It's a fantastic team. It's so much fun to exchange with them and meet the team. Go there, have a chat, not only about destination solutions, it's a whole 360-degree solutions portfolio they can offer. Marilee, your website under doormatgroup.com, and obviously LinkedIn for all of the speakers, and any other place you're here around the next days?
I'm here until tomorrow afternoon, so feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, and happy to arrange to meet.
Wonderful. And then you, with Visit Oman, Shabib, you are in Hall 2.2 at 201. Right, you're there with the team, and then also the website is beautiful. I can only recommend you to take a look, get inspired, and maybe plan your next trip to Oman. And well, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, Shabib. Thank you. Yes, all right. There's a 2-minute break, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And after the break, we will talk about the vacation rental space and technology innovation in that space. So, yeah, if that's your interest area, stay with us. You won't regret. We have wonderful people coming to discuss with us. Other than that, make sure to check the program online to make the right choices when you choose where to spend your time at the ITB Berlin convention the next 3 days. Obviously, I'm thrilled if you're staying here with me at the eTravel track. And this afternoon, here will be the hotel tech track, where we will be only talking about hotel technology. So also very exciting for all these hotel nerds out there. And I'd say take a minute and we see us back here for the next session in a bit.